Good morning, everybody. We have a mixed to higher trade in the grain markets here early on Thursday morning. It is 6:30 a.m. Central Time. March corn futures unchanged at 534 and a half. March soybeans up 7 and 3/4 at 1361 and 3/4. March Chicago wheat is up 6 and 3/4 at 642 and a quarter. March Kansas City wheat up 6 and 3/4 at 620 and 3/4. March spring wheat up 5.5 cents at 624 and a quarter. A little bit of volatility in the overnight session. The markets had been lower at one point. The corn was sharply lower on the open last night, but we've got a little bit of a rebound this morning. A couple of notes here this morning before I get started. Next Tuesday, which I believe is the 16th, I will be speaking at the Top Producer Summit here in Nashville. I've got an afternoon speaking slot. I think it's 4 or 4:30 p.m. Central Time. But if you watch the videos, if you listen to the podcast and you see me there, make sure you come up and say hi. I'd love to talk to you. Also, if you guys need some help with your grain marketing, if you'd like to get my morning email, if you'd like to get my text message service, all that stuff, go to my website. It's standardgrain.com. Click on Grain Marketing Plan here in the upper right-hand corner. For $49 a month, you'll get that email that goes out every business day at 6:30 Central Time in the morning. My text message service. You'll be made aware of all the overnight headlines that you need to be aware of, all sorts of interesting charts and information, and all my grain marketing recommendations. I break down cash sales by crop year, by percentage. This is billed automatically to your credit card every month, and you can cancel it at absolutely any time. There is no other obligation, no other fee, nothing like that. To get into the news here this morning, Brazil had their crop report out just a few minutes ago, and they actually increased their projections for their soybean crop and also for their corn crop. The projection for the Brazilian soybean crop went up marginally versus last month, 133.8 up from 133.7 last month. They also increased the corn production estimate by quite a bit, 105 and a half up from 102.3 last month. Now you got to keep in mind with this corn situation in Brazil. I mean, they haven't even planted most of it. That second corn crop is the larger corn crop there, but Brazil actually increasing row crop production estimates. U.S. ethanol production remains sluggish. Weekly output continues to run well below what I would call pre-COVID levels. Last week's production was down 9.3% versus the same week last year. Gasoline demand was down 10% versus the same week last year. Spot production margins, I think, are mostly negative for plants across the country. I've got a chart that I want to show you here that'll just kind of give you the lay of the land in terms of ethanol production. This is what we'd call like a seasonal chart. So each line on the chart here represents a year, and you can see I've got 2020 and 2021 checked off here. And I mean the theme here has been very consistent now for almost a year. We've been running well below levels since COVID started. We've been running well below levels that we've seen in any of the past 3 or 4 years. That happened basically beginning in mid-March 2020. We had the big spike down, and we continue to run even here into 2021 well below what I would consider to be like a normal level. So despite the fact that we've seen recovery in a lot of markets, I mean, the ethanol market's recovered, we've seen the energy markets recover, we're still not seeing ethanol production back to where we'd like it to be, I don't think. In some of the other headlines here this morning, Joe Biden's EPA will review biofuel blending laws beyond 2022. Biden has selected Michael Regan as the next EPA administrator. His approval appears very likely. Regan has said he has had conversations with other members of the administration regarding the role that biofuel can play in combating climate change. He said, "I will confer with my legal and policy team to understand all of the options before me regarding the RFS program, and in this specific case, how to set the RFS volume requirements beyond 2022." So I don't know how they're going to handle this. This is a couple years out. I mean, if they think that biofuel is a key component to combating climate change, that could be a good thing. I mean, it really could be. Now, we know further on down the road, you've got all these, auto manufacturers pushing towards electric and that sort of thing. That's not a good thing. But in regard to the RFS, I mean, there could be some positives that come out of this, I suppose. Argentina will not tax ag exports or implement any sort of restrictions for the time being. There's been a lot of back and forth about this matter recently, but I suppose there was one more meeting with the farm groups and the government. The president of one of the larger farm groups said, "We can convey to our producers that there will be no increase in export taxes and no intervention. This is just one of many stories involving a country attempting to restrict exports in the name of food security." I mean, Russia's the big one with their formula-based export tax. That's the big one. But you've seen some other stories kind of along those same lines here. It's a theme here as commodity prices rise. Energy prices also continue to rise. Spot month WTI crude oil futures are set for their best weekly close since January of last year. They trade above $58 per barrel this morning. Spot month heating oil futures also set for their best weekly close since January of 2020. They trade above $1.75 per gallon this morning. RBOB unleaded about $1.64 this morning. That's near their best level since February of last year. Ethanol futures traded their best level since I think December of 2016 this week. We've had OPEC cut production. That's helped to spur the rally. I think that just in general, the weaker dollar, commodity inflation has been a story here as well. But you're back to, what I would call pre-COVID levels in just about all of your energy markets. USDA will release its weekly export sales report this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. Another strong week of corn sales is expected following last week's all-time record. Corn sales, old and new crop combined, 1 million to 1.8 expected. Soybean sales, 300 up to about a million. Wheat sales, 200 to 450 expected. Cattle futures yesterday were down sharply in some of the nearby live cattle. February live cattle were down $1.32, sitting just above that 116 level. We'd like to see that this cash cattle deal improve this week. We haven't seen much of that, but it looks like we may be seeing some convergence here. Feeder cattle were able to close higher. Maybe the down day in the corn market helped with that. In the outside markets, the stocks are up. S&P's up 12. Dow's up 80. Precious metals are mixed. We've got the U.S. dollar just a couple of ticks lower. Crude oil is now down 35 cents at 58.33 in the March WTI contract. Remember, if you guys need some more information, check out my website. Everybody have a great day. I'll talk to you same time tomorrow morning.